As we navigate through these haunting narratives, remember that each story is a testament to the strength and resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable challenges. If you found this video insightful or disturbing, don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps us continue sharing stories like these. Now let's delve into the dark and twisted tales of psychology that will leave you questioning the very nature of reality. Number 1. The mirror room. I was doing an intake on a new client, and she said that she had been seeing a psychologist for several years. She asked if I could see her file, and I pulled it up on my computer. I opened the first page, and it said, "Patient presents as psychotic, delusions of grandeur, talking of voices and bugs in her head." She was prescribed meds and referred out to a psychiatrist. The next entry was from the psychiatrist. He wrote, "Psychotic, delusional, grandiosity intact, negative symptoms present." I saw no mention of what kind of voices or bugs she was hearing about. I went back to my office and closed the door before I called her in so I could look over her chart again. Her name was Jessica, and I felt sorry for her because it seemed like she had been labeled as crazy and given medication when maybe something else was going on. As I read through the file, there were pages missing. I looked at the date of the next entry, and it said, "Admitted to psych ward after throwing feces at staff." There was another entry dated one day later that said, "Admitted for 72 hours, discharged against medical advice." When I went to my computer to make notes, I discovered that her entire file was missing. It was like it had never existed. I went to the nursing station and asked the charge nurse if she knew where Jessica's old files were. She responded, "Jessica who?" I asked her again, and she replied, "Why are you yelling at me? We only keep the current charts here. All the other records are kept in the basement storage room." I went to the basement and found her old charts in a locked room. I brought the boxes back to my office and began reading through the file. In the front of the file, there was a picture of Jessica, and the date of the photo was recent. In fact, the photo was taken within the past month. But in the photo, she appeared to be well-groomed, healthy, and coherent. Looking at the handwriting, I could tell that the entries in the file were not written by doctors, but by nurses. The first entry I read was from a nurse who wrote, "Seems fine now, cleaned herself up real good. Threw a fit when told she had to stay." Then the next note from another nurse said, "Still seems fine, nothing yet, but I bet she'd get violent later today." I stopped reading and stared at the wall. For a minute, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, and I was breathing heavily. Suddenly, I heard someone walking down the hallway outside my office. It was Jessica. I tried to hide the chart under my desk just as she knocked on my door. She stood at the doorway and smiled at me. "Hi, I'm here for my session," she said. "Come on in," I replied. I looked down at the chart and saw a handwritten note that said, "Don't let her come in here alone. She's dangerous." Jessica sat down in the chair opposite me, and I tried to put the chart back in the filing cabinet, but it wouldn't fit. Now I was panicked. How could I explain this to Jessica? How could I help her? And what was this place? Jessica was getting impatient. "Are you going to help me, or do I need to ask again?" she asked. "I'm sorry," I said. "Let's talk about why you're here and what brings you in today." Jessica smiled. "There's nothing wrong with me," she said. "It's this room. Something happened in here. It's not safe. I can't stay in here." "What happened in here?" I asked. "It doesn't matter anymore," Jessica said. She stood up and walked toward the door. "I want to go home now." Jessica stepped out into the hallway and disappeared. No one knows what happened in that room. Some say Jessica had fragmented memories of the events that transpired there, while others believe she conjured up the room in her mind as a coping mechanism. The truth remains elusive, adding to the enigma of the mirror room. Number 2, the patient who drew graves. I worked at a hospital as an adolescent psychologist. One of my patients was a 17-year-old boy who drew pictures of graves for a hobby. He did not have any history of violence, but he was rather morbid and depressed. His parents were very concerned. On his many visits, they watched him draw detailed sketches of cemeteries. He even sculpted small clay models of gravestones. It was during one of our sessions that he showed me a drawing of a girl holding a heart in one hand and a dagger in the other. In the background, I could see a figure lying on the ground with a hole in their chest. I wasn't alarmed because the drawing didn't seem violent. However, I could tell by the subtle expressions on the girl and the fallen person's face that this image was important to him. I asked him about it, but he refused to talk about it. He just continued staring at the drawing. When I went to write my notes, I saw that the boy had written, "Me and her are gonna die together." I was immediately concerned and decided to call Child Protective Services. That's when I learned that the boy had been living with his biological father and stepmother. And according to them, his mother had died 1 year ago due to complications from diabetes. At first, I thought that this might be a case of grief, but then I remembered the other drawings and the clay models of gravestones. Was this boy obsessed with death? I needed to know more. I went back into his file and checked the other entries. I discovered that he had mentioned this girl named Alice before. In fact, he had talked about her for months. He would always get distracted when we were working on his homework, and he would start staring off into space. At those times, he would murmur things like, "Alice likes to play and Alice wants to die." The boy had also drawn a self-portrait of himself and labeled it, "Lonely Me." Underneath it, he had written, "No one understands me, only Alice does." Was this Alice the girl in the drawing? Did they know each other outside of school? After reviewing everything, I became convinced that something terrible had happened to this boy. I called the police and informed them about my suspicions regarding his stepmother. That night, the police arrested the boy's father and stepmother. During the investigation, it was revealed that the stepmother had poisoned the mother with insulin, causing her to go into a diabetic coma. The boy was removed from his father's custody and placed in foster care. As for the father, he was charged with murder and sentenced to life in prison. The boy who once drew pictures of graves was adopted by his aunt, who promised to love and care for him. Number 3, her son wasn't imaginary. I was doing a psychological evaluation of a woman who believed that her son, age 6, was not really hers. She said that her husband must have had an affair because the baby looked nothing like her. The husband, however, denied having an affair and claimed that the baby was really theirs. This situation caused a lot of stress in their marriage, and the wife had developed severe anxiety and insomnia. During my conversation with her, she insisted that the baby looked exactly like the man she had dated before her marriage. When I asked her to describe this ex-boyfriend, she said that he had black hair and a strong jawline, just like her son. To evaluate her further, I gave her a Rorschach ink blotch test. While analyzing the results, I noticed that she kept describing parts of the images as looking like her son. She didn't see a butterfly, she saw a bird that looked like her son. When she saw a dark shape, she thought it resembled her son's jawline. She also commented that the way the blotches were overlapping reminded her of her son's black hair. Was she projecting her own beliefs onto the images? Or were the ink blots actually showing her son? I decided to proceed carefully and asked her if she could show me a picture of her son. She agreed and pulled out her phone. I was shocked when I saw the picture of her son. He looked exactly like the images she had described during the Rorschach test. I was puzzled by the coincidence and asked her for more details about her ex-boyfriend. She described him physically and emotionally, but she didn't mention anything specific about his appearance. When I asked her how long she dated him, she replied, "I don't know, a long time ago." I realized that she was referring to a repressed memory. Instead of pressing her for more information, I changed the subject and told her that I wanted to give her an IQ test. I chose a test that involved matching blocks, shapes, and colors. After finishing the test, she left the room to retrieve her son. I was curious about the child and wanted to observe him. I noticed that he was wearing diapers and behaving strangely. He crawled around the room and made animal noises. As I watched him, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I had seen him before. Where had I seen him? Suddenly, it hit me. I had seen him in a missing children's poster. I quickly searched for the poster and confirmed my suspicion. The boy in the poster was the same as the boy she had brought in for the IQ test. When the woman returned, I tried to keep my voice neutral and explained that I needed to speak with her privately without her son present. She seemed surprised by this request, but agreed to step out into the hallway with me. I told her that her son was not her biological child and that he had been reported missing 5 years earlier. Her reaction was unbelievable. She froze in shock, her eyes wide with disbelief. "He's not mine," she whispered. "I don't understand." I explained that the boy had been kidnapped and that she may have subconsciously repressed the memory of the event. She remained silent for a moment, processing this new information. "I think I need to sit down," she finally said, her voice trembling. I helped her to a nearby chair and she closed her eyes, trying to collect herself. "How can I remember?" she asked softly. I gently placed a hand on her shoulder and said, "The truth is often buried deep within us, but with time and support, it can resurface. You are not alone in this journey." 4. Locked in with the monster. I was a first-year psychology intern, and one of my tasks was to transcribe audio recordings of therapy sessions. I was given headphones and told to listen to the tape and type out what I heard. Since I was a novice in the field, I was assigned easier cases initially. One day, I was given a file marked confidential and instructed to transcribe the entire contents. I played the recording and was immediately